Hi everyone, this is Alloutdoor1 here, and this is going to be the first video in my survival series. As I said, the survival series is basically a series of videos that I'm making over the course of the next few months to demonstrate certain basic survival skills and just give people an introduction to bushcraft who aren't familiar with it. A lot of these are very simple, so I'm sure a lot of you will be familiar with the concepts and techniques that I'm going to demonstrate here. But I hope you find it useful and or entertaining, if not informative. So this is number one, and the first few skills I'll be demonstrating in this series will be relating to hunting, trapping and gathering. First up, I'm going to demonstrate how to make a figure 4 deadfall. Now what I've done here, I've literally taken a branch and chopped it down to size, and I've simply batoned it into three pieces, as you can see here. And this will form the basis of the figure 4 deadfall trap. This is one of the more useful traps, as it's relatively simple to construct, requires very few tools. In fact, the only tool I'll use is this. You can do it with a knife. Because it's easy to construct, you can set many of them to give you a better chance of catching something. So obviously the more you set, the more likely you are to trap something. And another good thing about this trap is that it's very adaptable. Depending on what you're catching, you can scale it up or down. You know, for bigger animals, you'd obviously use a bigger rock or dead weight to crush the animal. Or, you know, if you're catching squirrels or rabbits or something along those lines, then smaller rocks will do the trick. Yeah, you don't have to use a rock as a deadfall, although that's the simplest thing to use naturally, but I'll talk more about that when we get to it. So first of all, I'm going to take these three pieces and start carving them into the trigger mechanism for the figure 4 deadfall trap. Right, so as I said, we've got our three pieces from the single branch, all batoned. I'm just going to remove the bark just to so you can see everything more clearly. Normally it's probably best to leave the bark on, as it all, you know, it looks more natural. But just so you can see what I'm doing more clearly, I'm just going to remove it. Save that for later for starting a fire. Sorry guys, I'm being lazy, sitting down on the stool. So this is the center stand. This is the middle piece out of the three, and this will form the center stand. So this has a notch quite low down, depending on what kind of animal you're trapping. You need it roughly at the animal's head height whilst it's walking. This would be appropriate for a squirrel. You know, just a couple of inches off the ground will suffice. And also, So this will be the bottom and this is the top, obviously, and now this bit should be slightly pointed like so, in this way. Almost there now. You want this point quite fine. You know, this helps make the trap more sensitive if you get a fine point here. You know, for small game, this is a small game size trap, so that should be about correct, that kind of thickness there. So that's our first piece, and one piece will go here. This will be the trigger stick, and then you have your top piece over here. As you can see, it forms a figure 4, hence the name figure 4 deadfall. The piece that goes on top, as in will sit like this, needs a notch here to rest this bit on so it balances. So as you can see now, the notch will sit in there, like so. And finally, on this piece, the top piece, This side should be sharpened to a point also similar to the main standing piece, the first piece that I showed. So it should be looking like this right now. And now the final piece to make is the trigger mechanism, which I'll just make now. I'm just going to turn the camera off for a bit, just to preserve battery. I forgot to bring my spare battery, which was clever of me, so I apologise for that. I'll just carve this and then show you the finished product. Right, so the final piece should look something along these lines. This one has 2 notches in it. Basically the flat side of this notch is here and the flat side of this notch is here, and then the diagonal notches come outwards. Yeah, and I'll show you everything in detail now. I'll do it with the camera in hand, just so I can show everything clearly. So these are our 3 pieces again. That's the main piece. It has 1 notch in it. So as I said, disregard this notch. That was just a mistake. So it has 1 clean notch in it there. And it's sharpened to a point at the top. And that goes upwards, obviously. Next we have the diagonal piece that has the notch here. And again that's sharpened into a point. The trigger stick, 2 notches, 1 there and 1 up here. So the trigger stick has 2 notches, the others have 1. As I explained earlier, it has 2 notches in it, there and there. And this is sharpened to a point, so you can easily stick your bait on the end of this point here. Obviously it depends what you're trying to catch, and yeah, as I said, depends what you're trying to catch, will depend on what kind of bait you're using and vice versa. So I'm just going to set the trap up now. It is quite fiddly. I'll do it on camera actually, just to demonstrate and show my blunders, which will no doubt the trap will fall on my hand, as it already has done, and actually managed to cut myself, which was quite skillful. Yeah, so I'll just set the camera up and get on with it. Now ideally the ground where your trap is to be set should be as flat as possible and as hard as possible. If you can find any large rocks with a flat surface, then that will be ideal. Obviously you want to crush your animal, so both surfaces have to be hard in order for it to be killed, and also heavy weight on top of it also stops other predators from eating your dinner. So as I said, ideally you want a hard surface underneath. This could also be a plank of wood that you've made, for example, something along those lines. Similarly with the crushing weight, the actual force that will kill the animal, that will trap the animal, you want that to be heavy, large and flat also, so it provides as tight a seal as possible. Unfortunately in this area there aren't many large flat rocks. So what I've done is another alternative. You can strap a few planks of wood together. Obviously I'd make them flat on one side if I was actually trying to catch anything, but this is just for demonstration purposes, and this is just another alternative to the rock idea, but any heavy kind of weight will do. So we'll go ahead and set up this trap now. Right, so here we are. Now obviously the idea here is that, you know, your animal will come along, and on this point here is the point where you place your bait. Obviously for squirrels, what would you recommend? Nuts, I suppose, although it would be difficult to push a nut onto the end of there unless it was fresh, maybe. Or berries, for example. But obviously it depends on what you're trying to catch. You should research that, depending on where you're going, what kind of animals will be available. Yeah, so simply the animal comes along, takes the bait, and by doing that sets the trap off, and the crushing weight simply slams down on the animal. Now the best places to set these traps are obviously places where you've seen the animal that you're trying to catch. For example, around here, this trap would be very appropriate for catching squirrels. There are many of them around here, and I've already left some peanuts out for them, and they quite happily came up and took them, so I'm sure they'll be easy to catch. Yeah, another thing to look out for is obviously game trails. That's if you're catching anything larger. I mean, this trap can pretty much be infinitely scaled up to catch larger animals, although a snare trap is probably more useful for larger animals, but as I said, definitely for small animals, this is perfect. So now the test to see if this works, and voila. So sorry to go over it again, but just in case you missed anything, I will do. Yeah, it all works by tension. Right, so first of all we have the vertical stick. The top has been sharpened into a point, and then there's the notch at the side, which is a horizontal notch at the top and a slope into that horizontal notch from downwards, so it's a kind of triangle. Next we have the diagonal piece. That's been slightly flattened on this end, just so it stays steady against the weight. Then there's another notch here, where the vertical piece sits into it, and it's sharpened also on this end, which goes into the trigger stick, which has 2 notches on it, one which keeps it standing in there and one which keeps the diagonal piece steady. Again, that's sharpened into a point where you put your bait. And yeah, so that's the first trap I'll be demonstrating. That's the figure 4 deadfall trap. Hope I wasn't too long-winded. It's a lovely day. I hope you all enjoyed that. I enjoyed making it. Take care. Alloutdoor1.